Welcome to Mostly Paleo, Always Delicious Recipes by Miss Sweetie. Join us today as we make a Filipino staple dish called Pinkabet, a vegetable dish with shrimp paste. Don't let that scare you though. This paleo dish promised to deliver on flavor. So follow along and watch me today as I make this paleo and delicious dish. Here are the ingredients for today's recipe. We'll be using 1 whole kabocha squash. If you don't have this, you can substitute with acorn or butternut squash. 1/2 pound of okra, 1 whole head of garlic that has been peeled and smashed, 1 whole onion, 2 tomatoes, 1/2 pound of Asian long beans. I have a 1/4 pound of pork here. I'm using pork belly. Feel free to use whatever kind of pork you want, pork shoulder, pork butt. And then here is the bagoong that we will be using today, or called salted shrimp paste. We will also be using some salt, pepper, water, and cooking oil. We're going to start by preparing our pork, so we're just going to cut and dice this into small pieces. Because I'm using pork belly, the skin is a little thick, so it'll just take a little bit of extra muscle to cut through that. In most Filipino recipes, you will find that they use more pork, but I'm actually going to serve this with some lechon on the side. So I really just want to use this pork belly minimally to help flavor the Pinkabet. But if you're not going to be serving any pork on the side, I would triple the amount of pork that you're using about 3/4 pound. So there's our pork belly all cut up. We'll season the pork belly with some pink Himalayan salt and black pepper. That way you can get a little bit of seasoning while it's setting off to the side while we're preparing the rest of our vegetables. Next, we will slice our onions. We will quarter the tomatoes. Now we will prepare our eggplant by cutting it on the bias. Now we will prepare our long beans. We will cut them into about 2 to 3 inches. To prepare the okra, I'm going to leave the tops on, cutting it in half on a bias. Now we will prepare our squash by taking the skin off and cutting it into similar sizes to the eggplant. Here's all of our ingredients prepped and ready to go for us to cook. So now we're going to get ready to cook our Pinkabet, but first let's talk about bagoong that you will find in the store. And if you see the ingredients on this, it is the shrimp fry, corn oil, vinegar, onion, garlic, chili, salt, sugar, and MSG. Most Pinkabet you will see prepared with this bagoong because it is bagoong that is ready to use. So because I'm using this one, we will have to cook it a little bit longer and prepare it. Hence the pork belly that I'm using in the recipe today. So it's just a little bit longer that it will take for this to cook down, but it's cleaner and it'll keep my dish paleo. And if bagoong is just not your thing, the shrimp paste kind of scares you, you can keep it out. You will not have Pinkabet. You will just have a vegetable stir fry. And instead of using shrimp paste, I would suggest using about 2 to 3 tablespoons each of coconut aminos and fish sauce. Our pan is nice and hot. I have avocado oil in here. Feel free to use whatever cooking oil you prefer. So the first thing I'm going to add is the pork belly. So we're going to let this cook and get nice and caramelized. The more we caramelize this pork, the better it will flavor our dish. The pork belly is starting to caramelize, so I'm just going to put a lid on it to help it cook a little bit more, and then we'll check on it after 10 minutes. Our pork belly is nicely caramelized, so we're going to go ahead and add our whole smashed garlic. Once you can smell the garlic and it's very fragrant, you can go ahead and add your onions. We will just saute this for the next 2 to 3 minutes, and then after that we will add our tomatoes. Add our tomatoes. Once the juices start to come out of the tomatoes, that's when we will go ahead and add our bagoong. I've added about 2 tablespoons of the bagoong and I've mixed it in well. The smell will become very distinct as you cook it. So I highly suggest cooking with your kitchen fan on and the windows in your house open. So we'll let this cook for about 10 minutes. We'll put the lid on and then we'll check on it. Sauteing for about 5 minutes. You can see it's kind of starting to brown a little bit on the bottom of the pan. So now we're going to go ahead and add our squash. We want to cook the squash until it's about halfway done. We don't want it to cook all the way through because we still need to add the rest of our vegetables. But to help the squash cook, we're going to add about half a cup of water. Put the lid on and then we'll let that cook. So the squash is cooked down. It's fork tender, but there's still resistance to it. So that's perfect. So now we'll go ahead and add our long beans. The beans have been sauteing for about 2 minutes, and now we'll go ahead and add our okra. It's been about 2 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and add the eggplant. And if you notice that the vegetables are getting pretty thick on you, you can go ahead and add another half a cup of water. It's important to add water only and not anything like chicken stock or broth. You want the flavors of the vegetables to really shine through, as well as that bagoong flavor. So now that we've got the eggplant added, we'll give it a final good stir. If needed, I'll add about half a cup of water. We'll cover it. Let the vegetables finish cooking through. With your Pinkabet, you do not want your vegetables soft. You want them to retain a little bit of their crunch. You want your dish to have a good texture to it, but you do want everything cooked through. So once the eggplant is done cooking, we will go ahead and taste it and see if we need to add any salt. Other than adding the salt to the pork after we cut it, we want to wait until the end when the dish is done cooking, because the longer the bagoong cooks, the more concentrated it becomes, and you don't want to over salt your dish. So we'll go ahead and cover it and let it cook for the remaining 5 to 10 minutes. The Pinkabet's been cooking for a few minutes. I am going to go ahead and add about a 1/4 cup of water. I did taste it, and it does need a little bit of salt, so I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle some in. Add salt to your preference. So we'll just let this finish cooking for the last couple of minutes, and then we'll be ready to serve. Here is our final product, our paleo and delicious Pinkabet. I hope that you've enjoyed watching me make this dish for you, and I hope that you will recreate this in your own home as well. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe and the like button if you liked what you saw today. See you guys next time.